On a crisp fall morning, Daniel strolled through Central Park, enjoying the rare quiet that only comes with the early hours of a weekday. As he walked, he took in the sight of the leaves turning, a burst of color against the city's gray. Engrossed in the peacefulness, he almost didn't notice the man sitting alone on a bench, sketching fervently in a large, worn notebook. Curious, Daniel approached him. "That looks impressive. Are you an artist?" he asked, peering over the man's shoulder at the detailed drawing of the park landscape. The man looked up, startled, then smiled shyly. "Something like that." "I'm Eli," he said, extending a hand. His grip was firm yet strangely cold. "I'm Daniel." "Nice to meet you," Daniel replied, sitting beside Eli. "What brings you to the park so early?" Eli paused, considering the question. "I find human habitats fascinating. The way you coexist with nature, yet alter it so profoundly. It's unique." Daniel laughed. "I guess that's one way to look at it. I come here to escape the noise of the city." Eli nodded, his gaze drifting back to his sketch. "Yes, the silence is revealing," he murmured, almost to himself. "Where are you from, Eli?" "Your accent. I can't place it." "I'm from far away," Eli said, his eyes not leaving the paper. "A place you wouldn't know." Daniel's interest was piqued. "Try me. I've traveled a lot." Eli set his pencil down and turned to face Daniel fully. "Very far. Another galaxy, actually." His expression was serious, but his eyes twinkled with a hint of mischief. Daniel chuckled, playing along. "An alien, huh? That's new." Eli didn't break his gaze. "I'm serious, Daniel. I'm alien." The statement hung between them. Daniel searched Eli's face for a sign of jest, but found none. Deciding to dive deeper into this unusual encounter, he leaned forward, elbows on his knees. "Okay, say you are an alien. Why come to Earth? And why reveal yourself to me?" Eli closed his notebook and sighed. "I'm here to observe, to learn about humans. And as for why I'm telling you, sometimes you meet someone you feel you can trust, even if you can't explain why." Daniel felt a strange sense of honor mixed with disbelief. "So, what do you want to know about humans?" "Everything. How you form connections, express emotions, experience the world. But also, I need to learn how to be human." Sounds like a tall order. "Where do you start with something like that?" "By making a friend," Eli said, looking hopeful. "Would you? Do you think you could help me with that?" Daniel smiled, the bizarre nature of the conversation overshadowed by Eli's earnestness. "Sure. I'll be your guide to humanity." "Thank you, Daniel. I have a lot to learn, and I'm curious to see the world through your eyes. Where do you want to start?" Eli thought for a moment, then his face lit up with excitement. "Can we watch people? I want to understand what makes them happy, sad, connected." "Absolutely," Daniel agreed, standing and offering Eli a hand up. "Let's go people watching. The city is the perfect place for it." As they walked deeper into the park, Daniel couldn't help but wonder about the real story behind his new, mysterious friend. Whether Eli was an alien or just eccentric, he couldn't yet tell, but he was sure of one thing. Life had just become a lot more interesting. Daniel and Eli found a spot on a busy street corner, perfect for people watching. The morning rush filled the streets with a diverse crowd, providing ample material for Eli's observations. They leaned against the cool metal of a nearby railing, coffees in hand. "So, what do you see?" Daniel asked, taking a sip of his coffee and watching a group of hurried commuters dash towards the subway. Eli's eyes darted from person to person, trying to soak in every detail. "I see urgency. There's a lot of it. Everyone is moving quickly, but they look not exactly unhappy, just preoccupied." "Pretty accurate," Daniel laughed. "Everyone's got places to be, deadlines to meet. It's the pulse of the city." Eli nodded, his focus intense. "And what about him?" He nodded toward a young man helping an older woman with her shopping bags. "Is that common?" "Yeah, you see acts of kindness like that. People can be good to each other, especially when they slow down enough to notice someone else's need." Eli smiled at the scene. "I want to understand that kindness. Is it innate or learned?" "Probably a bit of both," Daniel mused. "We're taught to be kind, but there's something inside us that feels good when we help others. At least, that's what I think. Eli's gaze lingered on the young man until he disappeared into the crowd. I have many questions about human emotions. They are more complex than I expected. Ask away, Daniel prompted. I'm no expert, but I'll do my best. Do all human interactions require verbal communication, or do you sometimes convey messages without words? Often, we don't need words. A look, a touch, a gesture. They can all say a lot by themselves. Eli considered this, watching as a mother quieted her crying child with a gentle hug. I see. That makes sense. The morning passed with Eli asking questions and Daniel doing his best to explain the intricacies of human behavior. As the crowd thinned and the pace of the city slowed, Eli turned to Daniel with a more serious demeanor. Daniel, can I share something important with you? Of course, anything. I told you I am here to observe and learn because it's the truth. My mission is to understand humanity deeply. But it's more personal than just an assignment. How so? Eli hesitated, searching for the right words. I was chosen for this because I am different even among my own kind. I have the capacity to feel emotions deeply, more like a human than my own species. This mission, it's not just study. It's a test to see if I can truly understand and maybe even feel what humans feel. Daniel listened, his expression softening. That's a heavy burden to carry, Eli. It is. But meeting you, I think maybe I can manage it. You make it easier to hope. Daniel smiled, placing a reassuring hand on Eli's shoulder. Then let's make sure you get the full experience. Friends, food, fun. You should get to try it all. Eli's face brightened. I would like that very much. Great. Let's start with something simple. Have you tried pizza yet? Eli shook his head, a curious look in his eyes. Well, you're in for a treat. Let's go find the best slice in New York. As they walked toward a nearby pizzeria, Daniel felt a new sense of purpose in his friendship with Eli. It wasn't just about showing him the human world anymore. It was about helping a friend discover his place in it. Daniel led Eli through the bustling streets to a small, hole-in-the-wall pizzeria that boasted the best slices in Manhattan. As they entered, the warm, yeasty aroma of baking dough enveloped them. Eli took a deep breath, his eyes wide with anticipation. This place smells amazing, Eli commented, looking around at the worn wooden booths and the walls plastered with old movie posters. It's a favorite of mine. Wait till you try the pizza. It's a whole new level of food experience, Daniel said, leading them to a booth. They sat, and soon a waiter came over. Daniel ordered 2 slices of pepperoni pizza and drinks. While they waited, Eli leaned in, his curiosity piqued by the new environment. How do places like this fit into human culture? Is it just about food? It's more than that, Daniel explained. Places like this are gathering spots, communal spaces where people share more than just meals. They share conversations, celebrations, sometimes even problems. Eli nodded thoughtfully. So, sharing food is a way to build connections. Exactly, Daniel said as their food arrived. Eli stared at the steaming slice on his plate, unsure of the protocol. Daniel demonstrated how to hold the slice, and Eli mimicked him, taking his first tentative bite. His eyes lit up with delight. This is incredible. The flavors are so rich and complex. Daniel grinned, pleased with Eli's reaction. Glad you like it. Food's a big part of who we are. Each dish has a story, a history. They ate in companionable silence for a few moments before Eli spoke up again. I want to understand more. What else is essential to experiencing human life? Music, movies, art, sports. There's a lot. What interests you the most? Daniel asked, wiping his hands on a napkin. Music intrigues me. It seems to evoke strong emotions. Then let's go to a live show tonight. There's a jazz club not far from here. Jazz is a great introduction to the depth and breadth of human music. Eli agreed eagerly, and after finishing their meal, they headed to the jazz club. The venue was intimate, with dim lighting and a small stage set for a trio. They found seats close to the front as the band began to play. As the smooth melodies of the saxophone filled the air, Eli closed his eyes, swaying slightly to the rhythm. Daniel watched him, seeing the genuine joy on his friend's face. "What do you feel when you hear this?" Daniel asked during a break between sets. It's, it's like the music resonates within me, in a place I didn't know existed. "It's both soothing and exhilarating," Eli replied, his expression one of wonder. "That's the power of music. It can take you places, inside and out." Eli turned to Daniel, his eyes serious. "You've shown me so much today. How can I ever thank you?" "Just enjoy it, Eli. That's thanks enough. And maybe one day you can show me your world." Eli nodded. "I hope that day comes. I have so much to share as well." As the night grew darker and the music enveloped them, Daniel realized how much he valued Eli's perspective. So new and different, yet so eager and appreciative. It was like seeing the world for the first time again through Eli's eyes. When the band began their final set, Daniel and Eli listened intently, both lost in the experience, the music forging between them not just a friendship, but a deep, mutual understanding. The evening was a profound reminder of the beauty and connectivity of human expression, shared not just between humans, but with a friend from the stars. The jazz music faded into the night as Daniel and Eli stepped out of the club, their ears still ringing with the echoes of the last saxophone note. The city was quieter at this late hour, the bustling crowds thinned to a trickle of night owls and taxi cabs roaming the streets. "That was incredible," Eli said, his voice full of wonder. "The way the music flowed. It felt alive. It's one of the best parts of human culture." "Glad you liked it," Daniel replied, smiling at his friend's enthusiasm. As they walked, Eli seemed contemplative, his gaze drifting over the city lights. "Daniel, may I ask something personal?" "Sure. Anything," Daniel said, tucking his hands into his pockets. "How do humans decide who they want to be with? Like, in a relationship?" Daniel chuckled softly. "That's a big question. It's different for everyone. Some people look for common interests, others for a spark or a feeling that just clicks." "And for you?" Eli asked, turning to look at him. "For me, it's about connection, feeling understood and valued. It's not just about enjoying the same things, but enjoying things more because you're with them." Eli nodded slowly, processing the information. "Is it like how I feel when I'm learning from you? More alive, somehow." "That could be part of it," Daniel agreed. They had reached a quiet park, the pathways lit by soft street lamps. They decided to sit on a bench, facing a gently rippling pond. Eli continued, "I feel something strong when I'm with you. It's new and confusing." Daniel turned to him, his expression gentle. "It's okay, Eli. Emotions can be overwhelming, especially when you're experiencing them for the first time." Eli looked at him, a vulnerability in his eyes. "In my world, we don't have relationships like humans do. Everything is more functional. But here, with you, I feel more than functional." Daniel's heart fluttered at the admission. He reached out, placing his hand over Eli's. "That's a good thing, I think. It means you're really connecting, really living." Eli's hand trembled under his, then relaxed. "What do we do with these feelings?" "We explore them," Daniel said, his voice soft in the quiet of the night. "We see where they lead us, together." Eli squeezed his hand slightly, a smile forming on his lips. "I would like that." They sat in silence for a moment, comfortable and close, watching as a breeze stirred the water into shimmering patterns. Daniel felt a warmth spreading through him, a mix of affection and something deeper, more profound. "Thank you for being here with me, Daniel," Eli whispered. "Thank you for trusting me," Daniel whispered back, their eyes meeting in the dim light. As they walked back to Daniel's apartment, their hands remained clasped together, each touch a new chapter in their unfolding story. The city around them felt different now, as if the whole world had shifted slightly on its axis, aligning itself with the new bond forming between them. When they reached the door to Daniel's building, neither was ready to say goodbye. "Do you want to come up?" Daniel asked, his voice hopeful. Eli's response was a soft yes, full of promise and anticipation. Inside, they sat close on the sofa, not just physically but emotionally entwined. They talked about stars and planets, about music and meaning, each word weaving them closer together. When their conversation finally trailed off, they were silent, not because there was nothing left to say, but because some feelings were too deep for words. In that silence, under the soft glow of the living room lamp, Daniel leaned in and kissed Eli. It was a gentle kiss, tentative at first, then deepening as Eli responded with an eagerness that matched his own. It was a first kiss, the kind that said everything that had gone unsaid between them, the kind that promised there was much more to come. Morning light filtered through the curtains of Daniel's apartment, casting a warm glow across the room where Daniel and Eli had spent the night talking and exploring the beginnings of their relationship. As Daniel stirred, he noticed Eli's contemplative gaze fixed on the skyline. "What are you thinking about?" Daniel asked, his voice rough with sleep. Eli turned, his smile gentle. "I was just watching the sun rise. It's different here than on my planet. It's warmer, more inviting. It's a new day," Daniel said, sitting up and stretching his arms. "A fresh start." Eli nodded, his eyes still on the window but clearly lost in thought. Daniel reached out, touching Eli's arm. "Hey, what's on your mind?" "It's just, I'm trying to understand all these new feelings. Last night was wonderful, but it's a lot to process," Eli confessed, turning to face Daniel fully. "I can imagine," Daniel replied sympathetically. "We can take things slow, figure them out together." Eli's eyes lit up with gratitude. "I'd like that." They decided to spend the day together, exploring more of the city and each other. After a quick breakfast, they walked to a nearby art museum, an environment that promised a mix of cultural exploration and quiet conversation. As they moved through galleries filled with classic and contemporary art, they discussed each piece, exchanging thoughts and impressions. Eli was particularly drawn to a series of abstract paintings, their swirling colors and undefinable shapes reminding him of the nebulae back home. "This one looks like the Andromeda sector," Eli pointed out, his finger hovering close to the canvas, careful not to touch. "The colors, the movement, it's very similar." Daniel watched him, fascinated. "You know, most people wouldn't see space in this. They'd see emotion, conflict, maybe even chaos." Eli considered this, his head tilted. "Is that what art is meant to do? Reflect what we feel inside." "Exactly," Daniel replied. "It mirrors parts of us we sometimes don't even recognize." As the day wore on, their conversation deepened, touching on topics from human history and personal fears to dreams and aspirations. Each disclosure brought them closer, weaving a tighter bond between them. Later, they found a quiet corner in a cafe. Over coffee, Eli reached across the table, taking Daniel's hand. "I've never felt this safe with anyone before," he admitted. "Back home, connections are more practical, less emotional. Here with you, I feel, I don't know, real." Daniel squeezed his hand, moved by Eli's openness. "You are real, Eli. Your feelings are real, and they matter." Eli's eyes searched Daniel's, seeking reassurance. "And you? How do you feel about us?" Daniel paused, considering his words. "I feel like I'm exactly where I need to be. With you, I'm learning too, about patience, about acceptance, and about the kinds of joy I didn't know I was missing." They lingered at the cafe long after their coffee had gone cold, reluctant to end the moment. Eventually, they left, walking hand in hand through the city streets, now familiar with each other's presence and touch. By the time they returned to Daniel's apartment, the sun was setting, casting a golden light over the room. They stood together at the window, watching the day fade. "Daniel?" Eli said quietly. "Yeah, I'm glad I met you." Daniel turned, pulling Eli into a hug. "Me too. No matter what happens next, I'm glad for all of this." In the embrace, feeling Eli's heartbeat against his own, Daniel knew that their connection had grown beyond curiosity, beyond friendship. It was love, new and profound, and as the city lights flickered on one by one, he felt a deep peace settle around them, promising more days like this, full of discovery and warmth. A month had passed since Daniel and Eli confessed their feelings for each other. Despite the joy and discovery that came with their growing relationship, not all reactions from their world were supportive. Today, they faced perhaps their greatest challenge yet. Seated in a bustling cafe, Daniel fiddled with his coffee cup, eyeing the crowd nervously. He had arranged to meet his older brother, Michael, to introduce Eli formally. Michael was protective and had always been skeptical of Daniel's quick attachments. Eli sensed Daniel's tension and placed a reassuring hand on his. "It will be okay, Daniel. I'm ready to meet your brother." Just then, Michael arrived, his broad shoulders and stern expression making him stand out in the relaxed cafe setting. Daniel stood to greet him, his voice slightly strained. "Michael, thanks for coming. This is Eli." Michael's handshake with Eli was polite but reserved. "Heard a lot about you," he said, not unkindly, but with a measured tone. They settled into their seats, and Michael's eyes remained fixed on Eli, searching, assessing. "So, Eli, Daniel tells me you're from far away. What brings you to New York?" Eli nodded, his response thoughtful. "I'm here to learn about humanity and its cultures." New York seemed like the right place to start. Michael raised an eyebrow, turning to Daniel. "And how did you two meet?" "In the park. Actually," Daniel jumped in, eager to ease the conversation. "We started talking, and well, things just progressed from there." Michael murmured, taking a sip of his coffee. "And you're okay with all this? Him being so different?" Daniel looked at Eli, then back at his brother. "Yes, I am. Eli's taught me a lot, about his world and about mine. We care about each other." Michael's gaze softened slightly. "I just want to make sure you're not rushing into something unusual without considering the consequences." Eli spoke up. "I understand your concerns. It's not just about being together. It's about understanding each other. I respect your brother greatly, and I'm learning what it means to be part of this world." The conversation gradually became less tense as they discussed more mundane topics, but the underlying worry in Michael's questions lingered. After the meeting, as Eli and Daniel walked back to Daniel's apartment, the mood was contemplative. "Do you think he liked me?" Eli asked, genuinely concerned. "He's protective of me, always has been," Daniel explained. "But he'll come around. He just needs time to see what I see." Eli nodded, looking ahead. "And what about others? Your friends? The world?" Daniel squeezed Eli's hand. "We'll face them one at a time. As long as we're honest with each other, we can handle the rest together." The next few weeks tested their resolve. Daniel introduced Eli to a few close friends, some of whom were intrigued by Eli's origin and others who were skeptical, even fearful of his alien nature. Each introduction, each interaction was a learning experience, a step forward in their joint life. One evening, as they reviewed their experiences, Daniel tried to lighten the mood. "At least no one's run screaming yet." Eli laughed, the sound bright in the quiet room. "True. Your world is challenging, but it's also beautiful. The diversity, the complexity. It's more than I ever imagined. And you're a part of it now, Eli. My world is your world too." Eli looked at Daniel, his expression serious yet full of love. "And your world is better than I could have hoped. No matter the challenges, being here with you is worth it." They sat together, facing the window where the city lights played across the night sky. Each light, like their love, was a point of connection in the vast, intricate web of the city. And like the city, their relationship was alive, dynamic, ever-evolving but grounded in the reality they built together. One day, one challenge at a time. The city was unusually quiet as Daniel and Eli made their way to a small, secluded restaurant known for its rooftop garden. They had planned this night as a celebration of their 6 months together, marking not only the time spent, but also the hurdles they had overcome. 6 months, Eli mused as they ascended the steps to the rooftop. "On my planet, time is measured in cycles, not months. Each cycle is so long, what we've had would barely register. But here, it's enough time to change a life," Daniel replied, squeezing Eli's hand. The rooftop was lit by strings of delicate fairy lights, casting a soft glow over the scattered tables. A light breeze carried the scent of jasmine and herbs from the garden. They chose a table in the corner, intimate and secluded under the starry sky. As they settled into their seats, Eli's eyes were drawn to the sky above. "It's strange to see familiar constellations from such a different perspective." "It's all about perspective, isn't it?" Daniel said. "Before I met you, I thought I had a pretty good handle on the world. Now, every day shows me something new." Eli smiled, looking around the beautifully decorated space. Like this place. I've never been anywhere quite like it. Their conversation flowed effortlessly as they ordered dinner. The meal was exquisite, each course paired perfectly by the chef, and as they ate, they shared stories of their childhoods. Eli's, a regimented upbringing focused on knowledge and duty. Daniel's, a chaotic but warm family life filled with music and laughter. I sometimes wish I could have grown up in your world, Eli confessed as they shared a dessert of chocolate lava cake. It sounds so vibrant, so full of life. Daniel reached across the table, touching Eli's hand. And I wish I could see yours, to understand you better. But I'm grateful for what we can share here and now. The conversation deepened, turning to their dreams for the future. Eli spoke of his hopes to bridge his world with Daniel's, to create a place where they could exist without boundaries. Daniel talked about his aspirations, both personal and professional, and how they had shifted since meeting Eli. It's funny, Daniel said as they lingered over the last bites of dessert. I used to think my future was just about career, maybe finding someone to settle down with. But now, it's so much more about us, about building something that hasn't been done before. Eli nodded, his expression serious but full of love. I never anticipated how much I would come to value this life, this connection. Whatever challenges we face, I know we can meet them together. As they finished their meal, the restaurant's soft background music changed to a slower, more intimate melody. Daniel stood, extending his hand. May I have this dance? Eli laughed, a sound of pure joy, and accepted. On the small dance floor, under the twinkling lights and the vast, open sky, they moved together to the music. The world shrank to just the two of them, their movements synchronized, their hearts beating in unison. Daniel, Eli said softly as they danced, these moments with you, they're what I cherish most. No matter where I come from, or where we go, this is what I want to remember. And we will, Daniel promised, pulling Eli closer. We'll make more moments like this, memories to last a lifetime. The night drew to a close, but the promise of their future together lingered, as tangible and sweet as the night air around them. They left the restaurant hand in hand, walking slowly through the quiet streets, each step a testament to their shared journey, a step towards a future they would shape together. The cool breeze of early morning swept through the streets as Daniel and Eli walked along the riverfront, a path they had come to favor for quiet talks and contemplative silence. Today, though, the air was heavy with the unspoken knowledge that Eli would soon need to report back to his people, a reality neither wanted to face. I've been thinking a lot about what's going to happen, Eli started, breaking the silence as they watched the gentle waves of the river. When I return, I'll have to explain what I've learned, what I've felt here with you. Daniel kept his gaze on the horizon, a knot forming in his stomach. And then what? Will they let you come back? Eli paused, taking a moment to formulate his words. I'm going to make a case for extending my stay. There's still so much to learn, and I don't want to leave this. Leave you. Daniel stopped walking, turning to face Eli. What if they say no? What if they want you to stay there? Eli took Daniel's hands in his touch as reassuring as his voice. Then we find a way. Whether I'm here or there, I'm not giving up on us. I promised you I'd come back, and I intend to keep that promise. Daniel felt the sincerity in Eli's words, the determination. He nodded, squeezing Eli's hands. I'll be here, waiting, and in the meantime, I'll keep looking up at the stars, thinking of you. They resumed walking, the city slowly waking around them as the sun climbed higher. As they approached a small park, Eli stopped, pulling something from his pocket. It was a small, intricately carved device, shimmering slightly in the morning light. What's that? Daniel asked, curiosity piqued. It's a communicator, of sorts. We use it to send thoughts, feelings. I want you to have it, so no matter where I am, you can know what I'm feeling and hopefully feel a little less alone. Daniel took the device, marveling at the warmth it radiated. I don't know what to say, Eli. Thank you. Just keep it with you. Anytime you need me, just hold it and think of me. They walked back to Daniel's apartment in comfortable silence, each lost in their thoughts but buoyed by the connection they had forged. Back at the apartment, They spent the day together, talking and laughing, trying to make the most of the time they had left. As evening approached, Eli's demeanor shifted, the weight of his impending departure settling in. "I have to leave tonight, Daniel. My people are expecting my return." Daniel nodded, feeling a sharp pang in his chest. "I know. I just wish we had more time." Eli pulled him into a tight embrace, his voice steady but emotional. "This isn't goodbye. Not really. I will come back to you. And until then, we have the communicator. We'll be connected, no matter the distance." Daniel held on a moment longer, then stepped back, clearing his throat. "I'll be waiting. And Eli, be safe." "I will. And I'll think of you every day until I return," Eli promised, stepping back towards the door. With a final look, Eli left, stepping out into the twilight of the evening, his figure gradually disappearing from sight but never from Daniel's heart. Alone now, Daniel looked at the communicator in his hand, a lifeline across the stars. He held it close, finding comfort in its warmth, a tangible reminder of Eli's promise. As the stars twinkled above, Daniel felt a resolve strengthen within him. This was not an end, but an interlude. They would find their way back to each other, across galaxies and against any odds. For now, he watched the sky, hopeful and waiting for the day when they would be reunited.